Hello, everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful Monday, wherever you're joining us from in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I can see in the chat already we have a couple of hundred people here live in Zoom with us, plus many others following along on social media, live on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and also later on Instagram. So hello to everyone who is joining us in the chat. I can see people from the USVI, US Virgin Islands, from Australia, Trinidad and Tobago, Canada, Cape Verde, St. Lucia, Portugal, Madeira, the Isle of Wight, wow, Bermuda, Papua New Guinea, Anguilla, keeps going all over, Cuba. And shortly a poll should be appearing in front of you to ask you some questions. So you should be able to answer that now. Let us know what region in the world you're joining from, which sector you are part of, and the industry that you belong to. That'll help us give us a bit of an idea of who is here with us today. I'll keep looking in the chat. Kingston, Jamaica, Barcelona, Dominican Republic. Where now? Grenada, Singapore, Seychelles, Philippines, Ireland, Aruba. Amazing. This is always the most exciting thing for me around the world, seeing so many people joining us from such a diverse range of places and with so many different interests but connected by this one common thread of being a member of an island community somewhere in the world. Today is our 5th anniversary, and for me, it's absolutely amazing to think that 5 years ago, before the pandemic, when we had to explain to you all there was this thing called Zoom that you could join to learn more about islands around the world, and now to see how that's evolved and where we are today, post-pandemic. These international conferences are still very important. But of course, now we're very much used to connecting virtually. However, this event that connects such diverse places in different parts of the world, I think is still so valuable when we're talking about sustainable development, to be able to have free and open access. And that's really what we want to do here at Island Innovation, have free and open access to all of this information to help all of you continue the work that you're doing in island communities around the world. I will just share the results of the poll quickly. So I'm not sure if you can see that on your screen, but I can see we have around 30% each from Europe and from the Caribbean, 15% in North America, and then others joining from Africa, Central America, the Pacific, Indian Ocean. Thank you very much to those of you in the Pacific. I know it's very late. Hopefully there'll be some other questions, other sessions later that you'll be able to join at a time that works for you. And of course, many of you will be catching up on the recordings later on today. Really interesting to see a split between all the different sectors, about 40% of you from private sector, and then the rest split across academia, NGOs, and government fairly equally. And then, as you might expect, very different industries represented. Many of you, around 20% in the environmental services and ocean conservation sector, but also finance, energy, management consulting, agriculture, waste, politics and government, and tourism and innovation. So a really, really broad range of people and interests represented in this session, but connected by an understanding of the importance of sustainable development and a need to collaborate and share and learn from each other. If you're interested to know more about the full story of Island Innovation and how we got to 5 years of the Virtual Island Summit, there will be another session later on today, this afternoon, my time, where I'll be talking more in detail about the story, about the work that we do and how we got here. So do join us this afternoon, if you can, for that session to really get a good idea of the whole picture behind Island Innovation. But firstly, I'd like to share a quick video about what is the Virtual Island Summit, so you can see a little bit more about the work that we do and some of the areas that we support. So, Christian, do you have that video available on your side?
Island communities around the world are clearly very diverse.
Slight technical glitch this morning. Well, quickly.
Island communities around the world are clearly very diverse. From tropical states in the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific, to windswept communities in the North Atlantic, like Canada, Scotland, and Norway. However, despite the differences, many islands around the world are facing similar issues. From climate change to energy supply, cultural preservation, and the general economic effects of globalization. There is a lot of opportunity for these islands to learn from each other. This summit brings together these diverse island communities from around the world to share good practices and showcase innovative case studies and solutions. We'll have insights from politicians, academics, entrepreneurs, and NGO leaders. There will also be opportunities to meet and network with people from and working on islands around the world.
Hi, my name is Omar Chedo from Jamaica.
I am Maëlle Poisson and I am an island ambassador from French Polynesia, Tahiti.
My name is Khadija Frazo. I am an island ambassador from the Bahamas.
Additionally, this will be a zero carbon summit, meaning that everything that we do will be available online from the comfort of your own home or office.
Okay, thank you for bearing with us through the quick technical difficulties there. But that gives you an idea of the goal behind this summit. We want this event to continue to be a free access to world-class experts, have interactive sessions, including the Zoom sessions, but also the networking sessions. And I hope many of you will join for the networking right after this session, covering a whole range of issues, because we can't just talk about energy or tourism or waste management in isolation. We need to look at the whole picture of how all of these elements join together when we're looking at sustainable island ecosystems, and then also to have a really diverse range of viewpoints. And as you can see in the chat and from our speakers, we have, I think, every continent represented and a really broad range of people joining from academia, from NGOs, from government, and from the private sector to really give that image of what of how all these sectors play a role in sustainable development. I believe we're getting close to 10,000 registrations for this year, once again hitting that, which is fantastic, showing the interest. Over 500 islands represented, and I think on the last count over 150 speakers. So you'll see how all of these interests are really combining and coming together. And then finally, on the content tracks this year, the different issues that we'll be covering include climate action and adaptation, renewable energy and clean energy transition, blue economy conservation and the ocean, agriculture, trade and food security, health, education, diversity and inclusion, the circular economy, sustainable tourism, and fintech and climate innovation. So quite a range of issues being covered. And none of this would be possible without our fantastic range of sponsors. So we really appreciate all the effort that has gone in for all of our partners and sponsors, specifically our gold sponsors, the Waite Institute, Open Society Foundations, Prince Edward Island, the government of Prince Edward Island, our silver sponsors, the Ministry of Economic Development in Curacao, the Edge Foundation, Chancery ESG, and our bronze sponsors, the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, Way Out, and Plotech. All of these sponsors are absolutely vital to keep this event free. I'm sure you can imagine the amount of work that goes into every year bringing the agenda together, putting all of the technology together. So we really value their support. And also to our partners. So we really appreciate the support this year of climatetracker.org, the Global Islands Partnership, and Climate Group for supporting this event. And so with that, I would like to go into our first speaker, and we are honored today to have the Honorable Dickon Mitchell, the Prime Minister of the Government of Grenada, share with us some background on the efforts being made by Grenada. So with that, thank you so much, Prime Minister, for being with us today. And I will hand over to you for the opening address. It seems we're having another sound challenge.
Fellow island leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good day. It is my honor to address you today at this, the 5th Virtual Island Summit. Every year, since 2019, this innovative, zero-carbon initiative brings together leaders from island states across the world to share ideas, network, and develop sustainable strategies to address pressing issues that are unique to our island reality. Let me begin by commending the organizers for recognizing and underscoring the importance of unity among island states, especially in the face of the climate crisis. Our destinies are undoubtedly intertwined, and our survival will depend on our ability to work together and support one another. I've had the privilege of serving as Prime Minister of Grenada for just over a year now, and I can attest to the fact that matters of environmental resilience and sustainability are at the forefront of my government's agenda. The tri-island state of Grenada comprises 3 islands: the mainland of Grenada, home to approximately 110,000 citizens; Carriacou, home to approximately 8,000 citizens; and Petite Martinique, home to approximately 900 citizens. Geographically located in the Southern Caribbean, we are blessed with breathtaking beauty and biodiversity that, sadly, is under threat of complete destruction from rising global temperatures. In Grenada, we have witnessed firsthand the devastating impacts of climate change. The ferocity of hurricanes and the unpredictability of weather patterns threaten not only our livelihoods, but our very existence. The environmental catastrophes we face, from destructive hurricanes to sea level rise and coastal erosion, are ever rising. Yet, there are still those who doubt the urgency of our calls for action and the need to agree on a global temperature goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius. As island states, we feel many of the same climate-related pains. The pain experienced by our farmers, fisherfolk, and coastal communities due to increased intensity of storms, decreased precipitation, record high temperatures, and ongoing coastal erosion from sea level rise. The pain of witnessing irreparable damage to our heritage, understanding that we may not be able to preserve the land of our birth for future generations, and certainly, not least among these, the economic and social pain felt in the aftermath of disasters that permeates our societies. Many of the island states represented here today are among the most vulnerable to the effects of climate change. Yet we have contributed the least to global warming. This cannot be overstated. My friends, who feels it, knows it. We feel it deeply, and therefore we must stand with united voices in this fight. Just recently, I delivered remarks at the 78th United Nations General Assembly, where I reiterated our unique concerns as island states. Our circumstances, especially the inherent vulnerabilities of small and low-lying islands, demand that more resources be made available to finance climate adaptation. Many of us find ourselves caught in the middle income bracket, which makes us ineligible for certain benefits and fails to account for the long-lasting effects of loss and damage on our economies and societies. As we look ahead to COP28, another crucial opportunity to voice our concerns and push for action is on the horizon. Grenada, along with our fellow Caribbean Community CARICOM member states, continues to lobby for the world to recognize our distinct reality. On September 28 and 29, Grenada will host a pre-COP28 meeting where CARICOM leaders will come together to develop and agree on a common agenda for action. We know that climate policies have finally begun to bend the trend on emissions, but global emissions are still not on the steep downward path that is necessary to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change. For the Caribbean, and many of our brothers and sisters in the Pacific, we need 1.5 to stay alive. We agree that combating the environmental crisis requires collective action, bringing together governments, multilateral organizations, civil society, and the public. The impacts of climate change are not limited to our islands. They are felt globally, as we have seen in recent weeks, from devastating fires and droughts to floods, earthquakes, and superstorms. We are all in this together, whether we are islands or mainland nations. This summit marks the 5th year of our collective effort, and I challenge us all to make this a watershed moment of collaboration. My friends, time passes quickly, and while our intentions are noble when we gather at meetings such as this, without a concrete action plan, we risk becoming just another echo in the chamber of rhetoric. For our part, Grenada is eager to partner with all interested parties who share our vision of a sustainable future for all. We are especially keen to partner with fellow island states on matters of shared interests, such as sustainable intra-regional travel, and to discuss shared challenges, experiences, and models of success. As a naturally resilient people, in Grenada, we are doing all that we can to increase our resilience to climate impacts and support the Sustainable Development Goals, such as achieving the ambitions set out in our National Adaptation Plan and our nationally determined contributions, implement sustainable practices, and raise awareness amongst our citizens. We are cognizant, however, that we cannot go it alone. The challenges we face are formidable, and the path ahead may be challenging, but they are not insurmountable with a united front. Let us tap into the power of the collective, turning our words into action and seeking avenues of concrete collaboration for the sake of our people and generations yet to come. Thank you, and may this summit be a catalyst for positive change.
Thank you so much to the Prime Minister of Grenada for joining us this morning to address us and to share more about the goals of Grenada for international collaboration with other islands, and also the importance of climate in Grenada, as with many other small island states. We'll now move to a different part of the Caribbean, and we're delighted to have with us this morning, live from Curacao, the Honorable Gilmar Pisas, the Prime Minister of Curacao. Prime Minister, will invite you to come onto the screen and to deliver your opening address this morning. Thank you very much. We can see you now, and we're delighted to once again have Curacao as a key partner for the Virtual Island Summit this year. So thank you again to the government for all the support there. Prime Minister.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Elsmore. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow world leaders, distinguished guests, bon dia, as they say in our country. That means good morning, good day, and a blessed week. I'm deeply honored to address you today as the Prime Minister of Curacao, representing our beautiful island nation in this esteemed gathering at the Virtual Island Summit 2023. My heartfelt gratitude goes out to Mr. James Elsmore and the Island Innovation Team for extending this gracious invitation. From what I understood, this is an event that has been at the forefront of connecting island communities worldwide for 5 remarkable years. Before we delve into the core of my address, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the Island Innovation Team. Your presence at the upcoming Colectivo Festival in October 2023 is eagerly anticipated. Curacao is prepared to roll out the proverbial red carpet as we engage in enlightening discussions on sustainable development and innovation, forging the path to resilient island communities. Curacao, like many other islands worldwide, faces a unique set of challenges and vulnerabilities. Our island, with a population of estimated under 60,000, is nestled in the southern Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela. We boost strategic access to natural deep sea ports and serve as a vital bridge between Latin America and Europe. Our diverse economy thrives on tourism, trade, transport, financial services, IT, and the oil industry, supported by critical infrastructure, including international ports, free zones, ship repair, docking facilities, an oil refinery, and the most important one, an international airport. Despite our geographic advantage, we are not immune to global challenges, most notably the pressing issue of climate change. The threat of a changing climate looms large, demanding a change of course and substantial, sustained investments, endeavors that Curacao cannot shoulder alone. In response, Curacao is unwavering in its commitment to transition from vulnerability to opportunity. Our vision is clear: to build a competitive, innovative, and resilient island that safeguards the well-being of current and future generations. This pursuit symbolizes sustainable development, a journey initiated many years ago, yet one that we acknowledge still has a considerable distance to cover. Resilience is a cornerstone of our strategy. Resilience for islands encompasses more than withstanding shocks. It calls for actively seeking solutions and moving from a position of vulnerability to strength and self-sufficiency. Our all-around approach includes economic diversification, exploration of new development avenues like green hydrogen and the blue economy, and the export of services such as financial services, education, and creative industries. Transitioning to a circular economy is a priority. Strengthening local food production for food security while promoting sustainable practices in polluting sectors is part of our roadmap. Our ecosystems are nurtured for robustness, diversity, and stress resistance, while at the same time prioritizing the physical, emotional, social, and mental well-being of our citizens, the heart of our island. Our journey towards resilience hinges on strong political commitment, robust institutions, proactive, sensible, and practical measures. We respond not only to global challenges, but also seize the opportunities they present. Public-private partnerships are instrumental, fostering collaboration and innovation. International partnerships also play a crucial role in realizing our objective. Ladies and gentlemen, in the spirit of sharing knowledge and fostering collaboration, I'm pleased to announce that during the same week as the virtual Island Summit, Curacao will be organizing its fourth SDG Action Week. This week-long event is a testament to our unwavering commitment to sustainable development. The objective of the SDG Action Week are ambitious and far-reaching. We aim to create a vibrant platform from webinars, training sessions, and live engagements focused on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Our primary goals during this week are as follows. Number one, increasing engagement. We aspire to involve the entire spectrum of our society, including the private. Number two, sector and NGOs in alignment with 3 of the 5 pillars of sustainable development: people, planet, and prosperity. Number 3, building awareness. We seek to raise awareness within our society regarding the SDGs, emphasizing Curacao localized 2030 agenda and its implementation. Awareness is the first step towards meaningful action. Number 4, sharing best practices. We are so excited to share local, regional, and global best practices and insights for the effective implementation of the SDGs and our local agenda. The virtual Island Summit will also be streamed via our social media platforms, demonstrating our commitment to sharing information and knowledge. In closing, I would like to state that islands are not passive victors. We are active solution seekers. We, the islanders, lead the way toward a sustainable and regenerative future. Together, we shall secure a better quality of life for our citizens today and for generations to come through responsible economic growth, equitable social progress, and effective environmental protection. I hope that you all will experience fruitful discussions during this virtual island summit and shall look forward to the upcoming Colectivo Festival. Together, we shall build a brighter and more resilient future for our islands and our world. I pass the word back to you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for those words. And we are always appreciative of Curaçao's leadership on the Sustainable Development Goals. There is so much happening in Curaçao when it comes to climate and sustainable development. And that is why not only are we supporting the SDG Week this week, but we will be, there we go. Not only are we supporting the SDG this week, but we are very excited to be co-hosting an event next week in Curaçao, as was mentioned, the Colectivo Festival. And for anyone following along, you'll find some information about that in the chat. Hopefully some of you in Curaçao will be able to join us in person. And we'll also have chosen Curaçao as Island Innovation's location for our senior leadership team retreat as well, given everything that's happening in Curaçao. And so thank you so much, Prime Minister, for joining us today for that address. We will now move over to our next speaker, and we're delighted to have a video address from the Commonwealth Secretary General, Patricia Scotland Casey, who has for a long time supported the small island developing states of the Commonwealth. Please do bear with us. There's a slight glitch in this video at the start, but then it smooths out. So you should see that coming on your screen shortly.
Distinguished guests and speakers, thank you for inviting me to contribute to this special occasion on a subject which is so close to my heart and so important for our Commonwealth and our world. The Virtual Island Summit is a fantastic place for people to come together, connecting islands, including small island developing states, to share ideas, best practices, and solutions for sustainable development. This summit is a moment for us to reflect on the urgency of the challenge we face and come together with a strong, united voice which must be heard ahead of COP28. It is 34 years since the Commonwealth leaders gathering at Langkawi predicted permanent and irreversible damage to the environment if climate change was not addressed and demanded a coordinated global effort. Their prediction came true. The 56 nations and 2.5 billion people of the Commonwealth are in the crosshairs, and our 25 small island developing states are the worst affected. And the ravages of climate change intersect with and intensify global economic and security challenges, threatening stability and leaving too many island states with a devastating prospect of being consumed by the waves or drowned by debt. The unthinkable has become typical. Yet, as climate change advances, the world has lost momentum. The gap on emissions, finance and justice has widened, whilst the window for action continues to narrow. It is our duty to close that gap, and Commonwealth environmental ministers meeting last week at the UN General Assembly in New York have renewed their commitment to do so. We, the Commonwealth family, can demonstrate to the world what common purpose and shared action look like. And our role as a strong representative champion for small island developing states means I am absolutely determined that your voices will be heard. I want to briefly focus on two things. Firstly, what the Commonwealth has done, and secondly, what the world needs. The resolve of Commonwealth leaders at Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2022 is emphatic, and we are driving forward their will to build resilience on land and ocean, unlock access to finance, and accelerate the energy transition. Our flagship Blue Charter, which is unique in the world and rooted in our core values, brings together all our member states in active cooperation to solve ocean-related challenges and to meet commitments for sustainable ocean action. Our Living Lands Charter builds on the Blue Charter and the synergies between the three Rio Conventions, catalysing a holistic approach to addressing land degradation and biodiversity loss. And our Climate Finance Access Hub has now unlocked more than 310 million US dollars, helping so many Commonwealth small island states to build human and institutional capacity and to scale up climate action. And we have $500 million worth of projects in the pipeline. And we are working with Cambridge University in a unique partnership to create investable templates which could unlock billions of dollars in new investment. They may only comprise 3% of the world's landmass, but small island developing states are protectors of 11.5% of the world's oceanic exclusive economic zones, including 7 out of 10 coral hotspots, and they are stewards of around 20% of all land-based bird, plant and reptile species. Their powerful natural capital interacts with the huge untapped capital of their youthful populations, 65% of our SIDS combined population is under the age of 35. Together with our sustainable energy transition agenda, this combined action on land, ocean, energy and finance is a principled and practical action plan for our Commonwealth family, which is having a real impact in our member states. But we know that on its own, this is not enough. The scale of the challenge must be met with an equivalent scale of ambition and action at the global level, especially at COP28 in the UAE. Most urgently, firm action is needed to close the glaring gap between the resources which are required and what is currently available. Estimates show that we need at least $4 trillion of finance each year by 2030. But current climate finance flows are just a fraction of that total, which threatens the very existence of our most vulnerable countries. This will require governments to deliver the promises they have made. It will require reform of the world's multilateral finance institutions, and it will require the fit-for-purpose loss and damage fund promised at COP27. Progress now in mobilizing the necessary resources will determine our future, one in which the link between the health and progress of our people and the health of our planet is strengthened, or one in which that link is broken beyond repair. The UNFCCC's Global Report on Climate and the SDG synergies shows that climate action and action on the Sustainable Development Goals are two sides of the same coin. So we must rise to the existential threat of climate change in a way which unlocks a myriad of co-benefits, helps us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and stands as the ultimate expression of our love for the world and our hopes for the future. I know how committed you are, and it is my profound pleasure to extend my hand and my heart in friendship and partnership, to stand with you, to work alongside you, to advocate for you, so that we may work better, faster, smarter, and above all, together, to accelerate the transformational shift towards a low-carbon, climate and nature-resilient future. There is still just enough time, but there is none left to waste. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? Thank you, and I wish you all the best for your summit.
Thank you so much, Secretary General, for those powerful words. It's so important to balance the need for optimism and hope with the critical reality being faced by so many of the Commonwealth members and also the other small islands that are represented here at this event. So we very much appreciate you taking the time to share that perspective on the important work that the Commonwealth does and for supporting these events. Next, we will have a very important speaker. The Alliance of Small Island States is a critical organization for supporting the work of the SIDS members of the United Nations at the COP's annual climate change conferences and beyond. This year, the chair of the AOSIS was passed from Antigua and Barbuda to Samoa. And so we are delighted that the chair of AOSIS and permanent representative of Samoa to the United Nations, His Excellency Fatamanava o Upolu III, Dr. Paolele Lutero will deliver an address about the work of AOSIS and the priorities leading into COP28 in December and looking ahead to the SIDS4 conference next year.
Esteemed colleagues, Talofa, I am pleased to join you all as we celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Island Innovation Virtual Island Summit. I bring you the following remarks in my capacity as Chair of the Alliance of Small Island States. For over 30 years, AOSIS has amplified the voices of our 39 small island developing states from the Pacific, Caribbean, Africa, India, and South China Seas region. AOSIS leaders have never let the small size of our territories preclude us from fiercely ensuring that the interests of our countries are well represented in international negotiations, particularly on climate policy. Our islands are small, yet we are facing an enormous crisis, one that is not of our own making. And climate change is not merely a challenge, but a threat to our existence. This month, the world watched as global leaders convened for the United Nations General Assembly, as well as the UN Secretary General's Climate Ambition Summit. Following the release of the Synthesis Report on the Technical Dialogue, the Global Stocktake, which clearly stated our world is not where we need to be to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, leaders were called upon to take urgent actions and drastically increase country targets. If this does not happen and our world reaches the warming limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius, we will be unable to prevent mass migration, water shortage, helpless to hold off the tripping of tipping points in our climate system that would forever change vital ecosystem. At our current level of warming, climate change impacts are already devastating my people and people across the SIDS region. Rising sea level are devouring our homes. Coastal erosion, increased saltwater intrusion, and the submersion of low-lying areas are threatening the very existence of our island nations. Low-lying SIDS, surrounded by vast ocean, are facing a relentless rise in sea level. Kiribati, for example, has been dubbed a sinking nation, with communities forced to abandon their ancestral homes. Life and livelihoods are under constant threat from more frequent and intense storms. Hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons are becoming more frequent and severe. Hurricane Maria, which struck Dominica in 2017, caused damage equivalent to 224% of its GDP. These events cripple our economies, destroy critical infrastructure, and disrupt our path to development. Loss and damage costs are stifling our progress. The financial toll of climate change-induced loss and damage is staggering. In the Caribbean, the cost of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas in 2019 was estimated at 125% of GDP. These staggering expenses not only hinder our progress, but thrust us deeper into a debt cycle that is suffocating our development prospects. To recover from these devastating climate events, we are forced to take exorbitant loans, putting us in a never-ending cycle of debt. This money should be channeled into education, healthcare, and sustainable development, not used to repay debts incurred due to climate change impact beyond our control. This is why AOSIS fought tirelessly for years for the establishment of a loss and damage fund. The journey is not over. As at COP28, we must secure the operationalization of a fund that is fit for purpose for our needs. Essentially, the current global financial architect is ill-suited to address the unique challenges faced by SIDS. We need transformative change, a new system that recognizes the disproportionate burden we bear and provides adequate and reliable climate finance. GNI does not tell our island's full story and does not take into account the special circumstances and vulnerability of SIDS. This is why AOSIS hopes the adoption of the Multi-Dimensional Vulnerability Index will soon provide much needed debt relief for our islands and as a criterion for access to low cost and long-term financing. Let this summit be a call for real climate action to facilitate the sustainable development of SIDS. We have run out the clock with empty commitments and hollow talks. World leaders must act with urgency. The best available science tells us that we must peak emission by 2030 to have a fighting chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, country targets, NDCs, fall woefully short. At COP28 in December, the global stocktake cycle will end, and we fear that the world may receive a failing grade on our climate action efforts. We cannot afford to be complacent or misguided by short-term interests. We must work sincerely and diligently to close the gaps and implement measures to help our vulnerable community, not just to survive, but thrive. This is why events such as this summit are so important. It is imperative that we maintain momentum and come together, utilizing our tools and leveraging expertise and ingenuity to find solutions. To my people of small island developing states, I urge you to recognize your inherent worth and strength. Together, we can lead by example and seek innovative solutions to the challenge that plague our development. The spirit of unity, resilience, and community that defines our islands is a source of inspiration for the world. To the international community, I ask you to stand strong with us. Our countries are striving to increase our mitigation ambition, implement adaptation action, and address loss and damage to stop these calamities from devastating our people. Yet we cannot do this on our own. We urgently need consistent support from the international community. We must unite as a global community to create a future where people, planet, and prosperity coexist harmoniously. Our actions today will determine the world we leave to future generations. The power to course correct and build a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient world is in our hands. But we must move now before the power slips beyond our control. In closing, I would like to thank Island Innovation for its dedication to raising the profile of islands and facilitating an enhanced spirit of partnership. I wish you all a productive summit and hope every participant leaves with valuable insight that inspire the transformation we need to achieve safety and prosperity for our countries. Fafitai Maia Manuia.
Fatai Lava, Mr. Ambassador, Your Excellency, and thank you so much for representing not only Samoa, but the Pacific Islands and all small island developing states through AOSIS with those powerful words. Every year we see at the COPs action to drive for the needs of small island developing states, and AOSIS plays such a critical role in that process. We look forward to seeing you at COP28 this year and continuing to support the work that AOSIS is doing in this advocacy. For anyone who is interested to know more about Island Innovation's work at COP28, there will be a session later this week focused on the COP28 or the COP process, the UNFCCC process, where you can learn more about some of our activities and the activities of some of our partners in that process. So now I will invite our final speaker, representing the Canadian province of Prince Edward Island. The Honourable Stephen Myers is the Minister of Environment, Energy and Climate Action in Prince Edward Island. We were delighted to host the Minister as one of our keynote speakers at our in-person event earlier this year in the island of Madeira in Portugal. And we're very excited to have the government of Prince Edward Island as a partner for this event, with a big important announcement for an event partnership coming ahead for next year. So with that, I will hand over to you, Minister.
Well, thank you, James. And I want to give a special thanks to the Island Innovation team who, like James said, this is my third time speaking to this group, my second virtual, and of course this summer when I was in Madeira and I got to speak face to face. So we're excited to partner and continue to partner. And maybe I'll have another opportunity to speak to this group again, but I'll touch on that maybe later. So usually when I speak to international groups, I usually start out talking about how Prince Edward Island is unique and how we're the only province in Canada who's an island. And we always like to remind people that living on an island comes with special climate challenges, but I don't think there's anybody on this group today who I need to say that to, because everyone understands the challenges of islands, and particularly with climate change in this group. As I listened to the other speakers so far this morning, I kind of was reflecting on many islands make up a lot of nations who spoke today, and we view ourselves as Prince Edward Island as being a single island, but in fact we're not. We're made up of several islands. There's probably only two that I can think of that are inhabited by people, and they're connected by a bridge in some cases, but we have several other islands that are not inhabited, and you know, in some cases it provides a bit of a buffer for the sea from us. And I guess upon my own reflection, we have a lot of the same challenges that were spoken about so far today. In 2019, I had just become the Minister of Energy for Prince Edward Island, and we took a group to Samso Island in Denmark, and we met with the folks in Samso. And at that time, we were looking for what solutions Prince Edward Island needed to put in place from mostly just an energy perspective. What do we need to do for energy being an island, and what can we do that's different, and what can we do in renewables? And we met a great group of folks in Samso Island who showed us what they did, who talked about how they engaged the community to build renewables, and the community benefits from their own renewables, so the money stays there. And of course, they're energy independent. One of the other things that they spoke about was their energy academy. So that's where the academics met to make the decisions for the direction the island needed to go in the future. And it was a really compelling setup that I thought they had, that we ourselves are looking to replicate it, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So when we came back, we started looking at ourselves, and we knew that Canada had signed on to the Paris Agreement of 2015. It was 2019. We really hadn't done much as a province or as a country. So we sat down and created a group to chart our path to net zero. So where would we have to go to reach carbon neutrality as a province? We set our targets for 2040, so complete carbon neutrality by 2040 as a province, and we expect to reach net zero energy by 2030. And we know those are aggressive goals. We understand that we're small, we're 180,000 people, but our challenges are just the same as any other challenges that jurisdictions will have, whether they're big or they're small, or they're an island or they're not an island. We look at our transition to a sustainable energy source, and really what we need to do here in Prince Edward Island, like the island of Samso, is become energy independent. We looked at how could we create opportunities for communities in energy. So instead of having a big conglomerate based out of Boston owning our power generation and selling it to islanders, with the only benefit to islanders is the lights were on, we looked at community ownership and distributed energy models where energy could be built in communities, owned by communities, and directly benefit communities. And that's one of the models that we're working currently on implementing right across our island to ensure that prosperity from climate changes that we have to make to adapt are going to directly benefit our islanders. We have a big wind regime here, like most islands probably do. We have great wind to work with for wind power. We also, in 2019, struck out on a solar platform to help subsidize islanders get into their own solar. So residential solar program, we have $1 per watt program, which is the best program in North America. We've had a high uptake. So in 2019, when I started in this role, we would have had less than 0.1% of our total grid being powered by solar on residential rooftops. Today, we have 10% of our base load in the summertime comes off roofs. So we feel like that was a step we made that happened really, really quickly to help us start transitioning over our energy system while allowing people to benefit from doing it. I talked a little bit about our community energy. We look at our model that we're trying to perfect as a social enterprise model. So we're looking for groups who can take energy assets, produce energy, and use the proceeds from it to help better their community or better their organization in delivering services within the community. Part of our fuel switching program is really led by Prince Edward Island, is largely heated by furnace oil. It just comes from being an island and how energy was delivered for a number of years. Our transition, we moved towards switching people off to heat pumps, and we have a free heat pump program now for 3/5 of islanders are eligible right now for a free heat pump, but we'll continue to raise the threshold as we get the installs done at the levels that we're at. And in the last 2 years alone, we've displaced 30% of our fossil fuels related to heating on Prince Edward Island. So in 2 short years, we're able to move the marker really, really swiftly here on Prince Edward Island. So it's something that we're really proud of, and it's something that we'll continue to work towards. When I talked about the Energy Academy in Samso, one of the things when I left there, I determined was we needed to have one of those things. If we were going to do a transition here in Prince Edward Island, we needed a place for academics to study, for business to partner, and get a message out to people that wasn't a political message. It was really a message that was founded on good science and good study. So in Georgetown, Prince Edward Island, we have the beginnings of a clean tech park. It's going to be centered by our educational institutes. So both our local community college and our local university are partnering to create a master's program in clean tech deployment. It's going to be the center of our clean tech effort. We will have surrounded that by a tax-free business zone for business to do business, to set up shop, to produce their own goods, or to work with our Clean Tech Academy to come up with better solutions or partner on solutions that can help any jurisdiction in the world tackle their challenges tomorrow. One of the things that we're excited about doing is we're kind of putting all of our eggs in the Georgetown basket, in that we intend on announcing probably later this week a Georgetown project that will show us bringing Georgetown to net zero and build a complete smart grid over top of it. So it's something that we're excited about because we can plug it into our educational facility, and we can allow students and academics to study our grid in a smart capacity, so that we can build better grids in the future all over the world. So I've been following the work of the Island Innovation Group for quite a while. It's pretty exciting, the stuff that James and his team are able to pull together, and we're always excited to participate with them. And as I said, this is the third opportunity I've had to address the Island Innovation Group, and I'm always excited when the chance arises. We take every opportunity that we can to speak to groups all over the world. And you know, when we talked back in the summer in Madeira, we talked about increasing our sustainability and transportation, our public transportation. I just want to go back over that. So we've invested heavily in active transportation in Prince Edward Island. So over the past probably 4 years, we've increased bike lanes all over our cities and connected our rural communities via bike paths. We've invested in e-bike rebates and bike rebates so that more people can get into cycling. I just came back from the Netherlands last Wednesday, and it's remarkable when you see the bikes in Amsterdam versus the bikes you would see in Charlottetown. I mean, I don't know where I could find a bike in Charlottetown today. And those are things that we're trying to change through strategic investments in infrastructure. We also have started since 2019 an island-wide transit system. So we didn't have a full island transit system until recently. So for $2 Canadian, you can take a bus anywhere in Prince Edward Island. It's tip to tip, and it's something that we're really excited about and something that we've never had before. And it's widely modeled on the Norway model, which I saw in action on vacation years ago, where you could jump on a bus anywhere in Norway and it would take you to anywhere else in Norway. And Norway, of course, is a country that's much bigger than Prince Edward Island. So we knew we could do it here. We have a goal to have the most EV infrastructure in Canada, and I think we're closing in on that goal really quickly. If you have an EV, you can charge it anywhere here in Prince Edward Island. We have the best EV rebate in Canada. So when you come here to visit, you could see EVs all over the road because we're really investing in EVs and EV infrastructure. We've also transitioning our school bus system over. So we have electric school buses account for 1/3 of our total school buses here in Prince Edward Island, which is 300 school buses. So we have 100 of them are fully electric. I just want to touch on a couple other things here. So we are well aware that the climate change impacts islands like ours and like all of ours that are on this group here today differently than they do different parts of the world. We have more extreme weather here in Prince Edward Island. A year ago, we had a hurricane that had the fastest wind speed on land in North American history. So we were hit really, really hard. It was quite devastating to our electrical system, to our trees, to our shorelines, and certainly to the psyche of our islanders because we had never been hit like that before. So we're working with the University of Prince Edward Island and their Canadian Centre for Climate Change and Adaptation to study best practices on how we can better protect assets in Prince Edward Island, either through shoreline protection or for raising infrastructure and those types of things. We're doing both long and short-term studies with them so we can get the answers that we need right away, and also that we can get the answers that islanders are going to need well into the future. So we're excited about those partnerships that we've been able to create right here on our island to to study climate change and to come up with solutions that we think we can share anywhere in the world. So just to close things off, we have learned a lot so far in Prince Edward Island on our path to net zero. And we routinely invite people to come and visit us. And we like to share the knowledge that we've gained, and we like to hear the knowledge that people have that can apply to our situation here in Prince Edward Island. So we are always keen to bring together policymakers, professionals, academics, industry leaders to be a part of knowledge exchange and collaboration here on Prince Edward Island. So to that end, we're pleased to announce a new partnership between Prince Edward Island and Island Innovation, and we're going to invite all of you, as well as all the panelists that were here today, to join us in Prince Edward Island to co-host the first Global Sustainable Island Summit in May 2024, right here in Prince Edward Island at Crowbush Resort. So if you want to Google Crowbush Resort, you're going to be amazed to see what it looks like. We have some of the most beautiful beaches on the North Shore of Prince Edward Island that you'll ever see, white beaches from tip to tip. We have some of the most beautiful vistas that you'll ever see, some of the most scenic drives that you'll ever see. And in May to June is our lobster fishing season, so you'll get to eat some of the freshest lobster that you'll ever get to eat. So we're very excited about that, and I want to thank James and his team for partnering with us, and we certainly look forward to having you all here in Prince Edward Island in May. And I just want to finish it off by saying two things. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the sessions today. Hope to see you in Prince Edward Island. And if you want to add me on LinkedIn for more information, you can look me up, or I'll have my team put my LinkedIn address in the chat there so that people can add me and ask your questions or make connections and see how we can work together. So thank you, James.
Thank you so much, Minister, for your continued support. We've been delighted to see that Prince Edward Island has really followed a similar approach to us in looking to other island jurisdictions, other island regions for inspiration, but also to share their good practices. And I think for us, that's been so critical today in this session. We've seen addresses from leaders of nations and also subnational jurisdictions. And we really want to say that actually many of these island jurisdictions, whether they're on the county level, the provincial level, state level, or national level, share same challenges. And so we want to open those political avenues to be able to encourage that collaboration. So we're very delighted that the event next year is going to be hosted in Prince Edward Island in collaboration with the government. The Global Sustainable Island Summit is going to be a really fantastic opportunity to bring some of these conversations that we're having in the Virtual Island Summit to life in person, and also experience not only the lobster, which I'm very much looking forward to, but also some of the great practices that are being put into action in Prince Edward Island. So every attendee of this event this week in the Virtual Island Summit, you'll receive more information about this. You can see in the chat, but also we'll email it over to you. And there will be a special discounted rate available this week for tickets available to everyone attending the Virtual Island Summit. So keep an eye on your emails this week and next week for some more information. That you have plenty of time to organize the logistics until May next year. And we look forward to seeing many of you, join myself, Minister Myers, and many of our other attendees in person in Prince Edward Island next year. So thank you so much to our very esteemed speakers this morning. This has really set the tone to kick off an exciting week of events, a very packed agenda that we have coming up. The next session or the next sessions over the next few days will be a range of policymakers, grassroots practitioners, private sector, academics, and NGOs. So you'll get to see a real variety of different people putting different items, different practices on their islands. And we look forward to exploring that with you. To kick things off, though, we would invite you to join the opening networking session that, as we finish the session a little bit early, will be taking place now. So you should be able to see in the chat the link to that. Remo, if you've not used it before, Remo, if you've not used it before, is an opportunity to have a more interactive role. So the Zoom sessions are in general panels and addresses like today. But in Remo, you'll have a chance to meet your fellow attendees, the Island Innovation team, and some of the speakers. So do join us in that Remo session. And take it as an opportunity to ask us some questions, to meet other attendees, and really to experience the breadth of people joining here in the chat. So there is also a guide. If you've not used Remo before, you might want to check out the guide. We encourage you to take a few moments to set up your account, add in your profile information and your photo. It might be a little bit tricky the first time you use it, but it's well worth the effort to be able to experience this and be more of an active participant on camera, or at least speaking with other people, to move around the rooms and to network. So I'm going to jump over shortly to the opening networking session. We'll stop the recording and we will keep this session open. So if you have any questions, you can type in the chat, and Christian will be here to help you to make sure everyone is able to join in Remo. So feel free to keep this open until you've joined. Excuse me. And we look forward to seeing you there. If not there, then in other sessions throughout the rest of the week. Later on today, as I mentioned, I'll be doing an interview about the story of Island Innovation, so you can get to know some more about the work that we're doing of our many different projects. And thank you so much for being here for the opening session. Thanks again to our speakers, our sponsors, our partners, and most of all to the incredible Island Innovation team who have done so much work over the last few months behind the scenes to get this ready. We're now a team of 18 from all over the world, from the Caribbean to Brazil to Africa to the Philippines and Europe. So we have an amazing team that is doing all this work to make this event happen and to really make this a fantastic event. So thank you very much, and I will see you shortly in the